Welcome in, Chiefs Kingdom, to Chiefs Latest, your one-stop spot for everything Kansas City Chiefs in 15 minutes or less. It is your host, Calvin Silvers. Happy Tuesday. As we know, the Chiefs have a short week down in St. Joseph. They're back in action on Friday for their second preseason game of three. It's just going by way too fast, and the news is just continuing to pile up. I have all the news and rumors for you. We're going to dive into it all. But before we do, you know the drill. If you're listening on YouTube, if you could go ahead and please hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or any other platform, if you could leave us a 5-star review, it not only helps me in the channel, but it's going to help you stay up to date with everything Kansas City Chiefs. Now, we know that these preseason games, as I mentioned, another one on Friday, it's quick turnarounds, and these are some brutal games. I mean, you have a handful of players trying to make the roster here. And so, everyone's going to just be going 1,000 miles per hour. It's going to be hard hits, and you're going to have injuries arise. And we saw that with the Chiefs. Janerius Robinson, he was on the verge of turning some heads for the Chiefs. I mean, if we look at Saturday's game, he had a sack. He had a stop in the run game. He was turning some heads. He had some potential. I mean, I'm not saying that this screamed a breakout season or anything, but he did earn an 84.4 PFF grade. That was the highest among Casey's defenders. Now, I get it. PFF grades during the preseason, I think they're a little wacky. I don't think they're 100%, but those are for my super analytical people there. But this all sounds great. But of course, as I mentioned, injuries arise, and he did suffer a foot fracture in the fourth quarter. That was confirmed by Andy Reid, and that probably shattered his roster hopes. A 2021 fourth-round pick by the Vikings, his career has been plagued by injuries. He had an ACL tear back as a rookie, a 2022 ankle injury with the Eagles, and he's been on the Raiders for a couple years. He was signed by KC back in April. He was quiet in OTAs. He was quiet in camp. But again, Saturday's flash showed that he could have at least maybe been a depth piece or a good practice squad piece. But now with no return timeline, I think his injury is going to open doors for another athlete to prove their worth. We'll get to that here in a second, but it's a gut punch for a guy that was fighting for a roster spot. Again, his injury already thins a competitive edge group. It forces Spags to continue his rotations this offseason to try to find a solid front. But again, that preseason, a sack, a run stop, and an 84.4 PFF grade in just a handful of snaps. If you look at his time with the Raiders, 13 tackles, 1.5 sacks in 16 games. So again, the sack, the PFF grade, that was a nice step toward, maybe trying to lock down a roster spot or at least have a depth option. But that foot fracture paired with a brutal injury history, I think that probably likely ends his 2025 Chiefs campaign before it even began. Now, why did I bring this up if we don't think he's going to be necessarily that big? Well, that because this led to a local standout signing. That's right, Janerius Robinson's foot injury. It opened the door for a local hero as the Chiefs signed Nate Matlac on Monday. That's right, they're trying to bolster their edge depth. Now, Matlac had 14.5 sacks across Kansas State and Pitt. He flashed in 2024 with 5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. So that shows that he does have some juice to his play. But with Karlaftis, Omenihu, Mike Dana, Gelati, and Idike Uzama likely locked in, of course, Matlac's fighting for a depth role alongside someone like Malik Hearing. But he has that athletic profile that does scream some potential upside, and Veach's front office is clearly curious about what his ceiling could be. But let's be real, Matlac's a long shot for the 53-man roster, and he's more of an emergency call-up. But again, this is a fun local story who needs a monster preseason to stick with this team. But still, with only 2 preseason games left, this is his shot to turn heads and maybe snag a practice squad spot at the very worst. But if you look at his college career, 61 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 14.5 sacks with 3 forced fumbles, and 6 pass deflections. If you're looking at his depth role, his agility, his length, I think that could add a pass rush spark in rotations. But again, his raw technique, his lack of NFL experience, he's a project. He's not going to be a plug-and-play player. So again, his signing is a feel-good story. Of course, he has those 14.5 college sacks. He has those local roots. But his roster chances are slim unless he dominates the preseason for a most likely a practice squad nod. So if you're doing all this and you're the Chiefs, I don't understand why you don't bring in some more experienced talent. With Robinson's sideline and Matlack a project, I'm still kind of worried about the Chiefs' edge depth. it might be time to call in some veteran reinforcements. Menahue's injury-prone history, Dana's dip to 3.5 sacks in 2024, and DK Uzama's failure to break out despite being a first-rounder, I think that leaves the pass rush kind of vulnerable, especially after a 39-sack season. So who can you do? Well, you can look at Zadarius Smith, 9 sacks, 60 pressures in 2024. He could be the jolt that Spags needs to terrorize these AFC West quarterbacks. Then you got Jadeveon Clowney, 32 years old, brings 58 career sacks, 139 quarterback hits, 3-time Pro Bowler, 5.5 sacks in 2024. Yeah, that's maybe not elite, but his durability, his low-cost deal, I think that makes him a no-brainer if you just want a depth piece. So Smith's high pressure rate, Clowney's veteran savvy, that's easily going to stabilize this rotation, especially with Enudike Uzama stalling. Menahue, his availability is a question mark. So I lean towards Smith for immediate impact, most likely, but Clowney's, his Super Bowl chase, that could make him a steal. But again, Smith, last season, 9 sacks, 60 pressures, 15.9% pressure rate, and 35 tackles. Clowney had 5.5 sacks, 11 quarterback hits, and 46 tackles. Looking at the pass rush fit, Smith's relentless motor, his pocket collapsing ability, that pairs perfectly with Karlaftis' power, while Clowney's run-stopping grit, his experience, I think that can anchor the edge on, early downs. So together they give Spags some valuable flexibility. Both of them do. You just got to choose one. These are your two options remaining. We're getting down to that time where, as I talked with the cornerbacks in yesterday's episode, these are your best remaining options. So I still think that the edge depth is kind of shaky. Like, again, Menahue's injuries, his inability to stay consistently on the field, Dana's decline possibly, and Uzama's struggles. Again, Smith's with those 9 sacks, Clowney's veteran presence. Again, I think these are low-risk, high-reward fixes that the Chiefs should and need to look at. But let's get to some good news, because McDuffie here was teasing some big contract news, because if there's one thing that Chiefs fans do kind of gripe about, and it's not a lot. I don't think we gripe about a lot of things here, especially about the front office. But I think letting secondary studs like Justin Reed walk to the Saints has, some fans questioning why the Chiefs seem to let these types of players in the secondary go pretty consistently. So Trent McDuffie's future, that was the burning question, especially after we saw Karlaftis' extension. We thought McDuffie might get that first. But again, he teased on Monday that talks are underway with his contract and things are good in KC, quote unquote. So that's music to our ears. 2026 club option in hand. The Chiefs do have some leverage, but again, McDuffie's lockdown play, he's a must keep if you're Kansas City. Their elite drafting, their savvy signings have kept the defense, humming despite losing those pieces in the secondary. But again, McDuffie's a rare breed. He doesn't just fall in the lap all that often. This is someone that you have to keep. All-pro pedigree, his versatility and Spags scheme. He's a cornerstone. If Beach let him go to free agency, the secondary would really, really take a hit, especially with our depth pieces right now. So locking him up now, even at a premium, you just need a top-tier cornerback. Again, 183 tackles in his career, 14 quarterback hits, 7 forced fumbles, 27 pass deflections, 2 interceptions. This is someone you have to have. If you're even just looking at last year's PFF grades, 83.1 overall, that was 3rd among corners, 80.6 coverage, that was 9th among corners. He's got that ability to shadow the wide receiver 1, the ability to slide to the slot. That just gives Spags unmatched flexibility. But without that long-term deal, the Chiefs would risk leaning on some unproven ground. So again, McDuffie's contract talks are a bright spot, despite fans maybe being frustrated over losing players in the secondary previously. But again, you got to get this all-pro corner. It's critical to keeping the Chiefs secondary elite and the defense overall elite. So that's what we have for you on this lovely Tuesday here at Cheifs Latest. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Go ahead and leave a like and comment down below. I do appreciate everyone's comments. I do read them all, and they just mean a lot to me. And they also spark some conversations in my own head, and I love to bring those when I discuss here with you guys. Again, I am your host, Calvin Silvers, here at Cheifs Latest. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, leave 5 stars, and until next time, have a good one.